Hey everyone, I'm Mike and I have opinions. Last time I told you I wanted to talk about a couple of public domain heroes. I can't tell you about all of them, unfortunately, but I can talk about my favorites. The Phantom Detective, The Woman in Red, Miss Mask, and The Face. I'm only going to do a short overview because y'all should really read up on these characters yourselves. Many of their adventures can be found online or in some cases reprint editions for the Kindle or other devices. Really, this is some good period stuff. One caveat. You need to remember when it was written. This was the 1930s and 40s, and racism and sexism was okay, and it was pretty much all through popular culture to a far greater extent than it is today. I'm not going to defend it, but I'm also not going to tell you to avoid them. These stories are a part of our literary history, and they should be experienced. That said, if you were to update these characters, they could easily lose all that baggage and become premier adventure characters. Hell, Dynamite Entertainment did their Project Superpowers series with many public domain heroes, including a couple that I'm going to talk about here. Okay, first on the list, The Face. The Face first appeared in 1940 and fought crime while wearing a terrifying mask to unnerve his prey. Sound familiar? Yeah, there was a lot of, shall we say, borrowing of concepts in the early days of pulps and comics. The Face is radio announcer Tony Trent. He doesn't have any superpowers, but motivated after witnessing a gang of hit squad disguised as cops, he decided he needed to clean up his town. Eventually, he ditched the mask and just fought as himself, but now that's not nearly as much fun. If you want to see an updated version of him, take a look at Project Superpower. Next up is Miss Mask. Miss Mask appeared in 1946 and was a young socialite named Diana Adams who donned a red costume to fight injustice with only her wits and a pair of pistols. The cool thing about her is that she's had more than one revival. First in the 90s by AC Comics, then in 2001 by Alan Moore for America's Best Comics, and lastly by Dynamite of Project Superpowers. Next is The Woman in Red. She first appeared in 1940 as policewoman Peggy Allen, who was frustrated by her job's limitations, so she decided to take the law into her own hands. She wore all red, obviously. She wore a full-length coat, a hood, and a mask. She was a markswoman and skilled in hand-to-hand combat. She was also revived by Alan Moore's America's Best Comics. Not by Project Superpowers, as far as I'm aware. And by the way, y'all should go back and read America's Best Comics anyway, because that was some damn good adventure comics right there. I mean, talking robots and talking monkeys. What more do you want? Finally, there is my personal favorite of the bunch, the Phantom Detective. He had the distinction of being one of the very first pulp heroes. He debuted in 1933, a month before Doc Savage hit the stands. He was also the longest-running pulp character behind The Shadow and, of course, Doc Savage. This guy stood with giants. So why don't more people know about him? Well, part of the reason why is that he is in the public domain. These two other characters, The Shadow and Doc Savage, have a multinational corporation behind them to throw marketing at it if they want to. Of course, they don't all that often, which is a shame, because all of these characters deserve wider recognition. Unfortunately for the Phantom Detective, his copyright wasn't renewed, and the comic version got lost in the morass that was the quite tortured Nidor Comics saga. But that's for another day. Back to the topic at hand. The Phantom, as he was known in his stories, was bored, rich, World War I veteran Richard Curtis Van Loan. I know, right? He just sounds like he drips money. He was challenged by his friend, newspaper publisher Frank Havens, to solve a case that the police couldn't. He succeeded, and a hero was born. One quick note about the Phantom Detective is, I said that he was only known as the Phantom in his own stories. That's because the Phantom Detective was largely the inspiration for Lee Falk's far more famous the ghost who walks, the Phantom. In his first few stories, the Phantom was almost a clone of the Phantom Detective. Finally, Lee Falk got bored with this idea and decided to go more exotic with his version. He ditched the Playboy alter ego and went into the jungles. And the rest is, as they say, pulp history. I admit, I may be biased as I love old pulp stories. I have an ever-growing collection of them, and they are fun to read. I wish there were more books like them today. Oh, one final note. An honorable mention is the Domino Lady. She appeared in the May 1936 issue of Saucy Romantic Adventures. It's exactly what you think it is. The thing is, the character concept is really strong. College-educated socialite Ellen Patrick dons a backless white dress. No, I'm not kidding. A belt full of knockout serum syringes, and a .45 pistol to get revenge after her district attorney father was killed. Of course, most of her few adventures devolved into Skinamax territory, but they're not terrible. I think in a different set of stories, the Domino Lady could really shine. Well, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this discussion of public domain heroes. Please don't forget to check out my Patreon page. I'll have the link to that, as well as some reading material about the characters I talked about in the comments below. Until next time, I have opinions, and so should you.